Okay, I'm all distracted now. I'm overclamped. Again, thank you guys for being here. So that presser yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, he invited the Republicans down to try to figure out how they can steal the midterms. Well, that's not going to happen. There's too much energy. There's too much motivation, at least from what I've seen so far, on the Democrat independent side. We're going to talk about a representative from California who was a Republican who decided to bail on his party and now wants to officially be registered in the House as an independent. He has stated that he'll caucus with the Republicans, so there's still that. Anyway, there's a couple of things that really kind of that stood out to me yesterday. Also this morning, we're going to get into this thing called the Bandolini theory, which has a lot to do with how our media works, and I might even have a little quiz for you. So please stay tuned for that because I know you guys like quizzes. And yes, the teacher can be bribed. I'm letting you know. I do have a price. I don't know what it is. I'll think of something. All right, so there's a couple of moments that really stood out to me, and we'll get into it in just a moment. Actually, before we do I want to do that now? No, wait. This has to do with recent reporting about the events in Iran. As we know, the world is popping off. The president's trying to take credit for things that I don't even know why. But this was an interesting moment captured by let's see, it's Manu Raja. The president does not like Manu because he asks great questions. But here's this wild moment.
Destroyed that Iranian girls' school. So will the U.S. accept any responsibility for that strike?
And I will say that the Tomahawk, which is one of the most powerful weapons around, is used by, is sold and used by other countries, you know that. And whether it's Iran, who also has some Tomahawks, I wish they had more. But whether it's Iran or somebody else, the fact that a Tomahawk is very generic. It's sold to other countries. But that's being investigated right now.
It's not a generic weapon. We know that. So I'll get into that in just a moment.
There's a footage that shows that an American missile strike and a Tomahawk missile likely destroyed that Iranian girls' school. So will the U.S. accept any responsibility for that strike?
And I will say that.
Okay, so we'll get back to that in just a moment. Here's another question it's part of the same press gaggle. Here you go. Hang on one second. Because the claim that the president is now making is basically that Iran decided to bomb itself. I'm having some having some Wi-Fi issues, guys, this morning, so things might be a little bit more delayed, which drives me crazy when you're trying to produce a show, but I'll get over it.
You just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a Tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. But you're the only person in your government saying this. Even your defense secretary wouldn't say that when he was asked, standing over your shoulder on your plane on Saturday. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's something that I was told is under investigation.
Oh.
But Tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
Whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report. Okay, so let's actually find out about the Tomahawks. So I did some research because that's what I do for you. Several countries, this is from Military Times, several countries possess or operate Tomahawk cruise missiles, a long-range U.S.-made cruise missile primarily launched from ships or submarines. It is produced by Raytheon Technologies. By the way, Erica Kirk's dad connected Raytheon. I'll just leave that right there. And has been widely used by the United States Navy since the 1980s. The United States, primary operator and developer, thousands produced since the 1980s, launched from Navy destroyers and cruisers, and also from attack submarines. It's used in conflicts including the Gulf War, the Iraq War, the Syrian Civil War, and now the war with Iran. Also, the United Kingdom. The Royal Navy is the only foreign military currently operating Tomahawks. They were carried on the Trafalgar-class sub and the Astute-class submarine, first used in combat during the Kosovo War in 1999. Countries approved to buy it in recent deals. That will include Australia. They were approved to purchase Tomahawks from Raytheon in the U.S. in 2023 and 2024 to be deployed on their Hobart-class destroyers and then on future nuclear submarines. Also, Japan approved to purchase announcement in 2023, plan to deploy on the Maya class destroyer and the Otago class destroyer. So the only countries that operate them in full would be the United States. United Kingdom only for long-term foreign operations, and then Australia and Japan have an agreement to purchase. So no. Countries with cruise missiles are Russia, China, Iran, and others, but not Tomahawks. So the president acknowledging that, yes, it was in fact a Tomahawk that hit the school, then there's only one country in theater who would have been responsible for that, and that would be the United States of America. So no, you're wrong. Again, United States, full operator, primary user, United Kingdom, only long-term foreign operator, and then Australia and Japan approved to purchase. So no. Sorry, doesn't work that way. All right, let's check in briefly with our gas prices. So in case you guys didn't know, gas is on the rise. $3.54 a gallon national average, up 10 cents since yesterday alone. $3.54 current. Yesterday was $3.46, $3.10 a week ago, $2.92 a month ago, and at this point, 1 year ago, it was $3.09. So gas is up 70 cents in a year. But you can live with that, right? Yeah. Funny that you say that, because here's a wild statement from the president, which tells me everything you need to know. Let me see if I can find it. Like I said, I'm having some tech difficulties today. $3.54. Here's the president.
For the other parts of the world, including countries like China, they get a lot of their oil through the straits. So we're doing this. We have a very good relationship with President Xi in China. I'm going there in a short period of time, and we're protecting the world from what these lunatics are trying to do, and very successfully, I might add. We're also waiving certain oil-related sanctions to reduce prices. So we have sanctions on some countries. We're going to take those sanctions off till this straightens out. Then who knows, maybe we won't have to put them on. There'll be so much peace. But when the time comes, the U.S. Navy and its partners will escort tankers through the strait if needed. I hope it's not going to be needed, but if it's needed, we'll escort them right through. And we have the greatest mine-sweeping ability. We have the greatest ships and all of we know exactly where they're placed. We'll get them out of there very fast, but we hope we don't have any of that. And again, if they do that, if they play that game, we're going to hit them at a level that they have not seen before.
Got it. This is what he said.
With all of that, it affects other countries much more than it does the United States.
Okay, it doesn't really affect us. That's good to know. I appreciate you saying that, sir. You might want to walk up to the middle class family who's already struggling, and just remind them that you told them that gas prices were going to drop. So this is now the new spin that the right wing is running with. I told you, I predicted this. I told you it was going to happen. I told you. So here we go. This is their new rhetoric.
A short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers. We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short-term.
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 Short-term and long-term.
Short-term.
Hopefully this is a short-term pain.
Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefits.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
Okay, guys, don't worry. It's just a short-term pain for long-term gain, apparently. Okay. Well, this was the president's statement on Lie Social. Hold on.
If Iran does anything that stops the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the United States of America 20 times harder. harder than they have been hit thus far. Additionally, we will take out easily destroyable targets that will make it virtually impossible for Iran to ever be built back as a nation again. Death, fire, fury will rain upon them. But I hope and pray that it doesn't happen. This is a gift from the United States of America to China. Huh? And all those nations that heavily use the Hormuz Strait. Hopefully, it is a gesture that will be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
A gift to China? Okay. I didn't realize that. Short-term gain for long-term pain and a gift to China. And we've now lost 8 service members. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was tracking that because I didn't realize that short-term gain, long-term pain, short-term pain, long-term gain. But this is what the president had to say when asked questions about the death of American service members.
There have been 8 U.S. military fatalities associated with the war in Iran. How many American deaths are you willing to have in this war?
Well, as I said before, when you have conflicts like this, you always have death. And I was at Dover yesterday. I met the parents, and they were unbelievable people. They were unbelievable people, but they all had one thing in common. They said to me one thing And
don't forget, you wore a baseball cap, you fuck. And then you twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing frauds, her name on a list, racist fuck. And Fox had to cover for your ass because of how horrible it looked. But anyway, you were saying?
You're saying going, finish the job, sir. Please finish the job. And I'll leave you at that.
Mr. President, as of today, there have been 8 U.S. military.
Okay, that's good to know. He's going to finish the job. Okay. Is that the short-term gain, long-term pain thing? All right. Just want to make sure I understood that properly. We're also going to get into a little bit of the of Howard Nutlick today. We're going to spend some time talking about Howard because Howard is going to be testifying again in front of the House this time. Pam Bondi's going to be dragged in. We're going to talk about all that. I do want to stick on the war topic for just a few minutes because there's some things in here that we really kind of need to cover off on, especially as it relates to this holy war bullshit that was connected to recent statements from the Pentagon. There's some wild things in here that I want to go over with you guys. Let me see if I can find this one piece first. Well, let me just give you Caroline Levitt. We can't have a day without Caroline. And a reminder, friends, she's from New Hampshire.
Reporting and intellectual dishonesty from the American media on why President Trump decided to launch this operation. So let me remind you, Operation Midnight Hammer, which took place last June, obliterated Iran's 3 major nuclear sites. Yet the terrorist Iranian regime has remained fully committed to rebuilding its nuclear program. How do we know this? Because Iran has pursued this path of war and violence despite President Trump dispatching 2 of his top and most trusted negotiators to engage in exhaustive and good faith negotiations to try and reach a deal. And the world knows this president's preference is always peace and diplomacy first. Look no further than the 8 additional global conflicts he has ended in the past year as proof. Unfortunately, the terrorist Iranian regime refused to negotiate in good faith. They chose this path of violence and destruction, and they are reaping the consequences of their horrible decision. The regime did what they always have done. They lied, they delayed, they tried to string the United States of America along. They wanted to buy themselves time to continue building ballistic missiles and other deadly weaponry that could harm our U.S. personnel and troops in the region, and to continue aggressively pursuing their unacceptable nuclear ambitions. U.S. negotiators offered to lift crippling sanctions on Iran and even provide nuclear fuel to Iran at no cost to support a civil nuclear power program. They additionally had the opportunity to accept U.S. support as an investor in potential projects to develop peaceful nuclear energy together. Yet in response, Iran would have to forfeit their enrichment capacity once and for all. But Iran rejected. They accepted none of these generous offers by the United States. Simply put, They refused to say yes to peace. And their refusal made clear that their number one priority was building a nuclear weapon with which to threaten the United States of America. Again, the country they have been chanting death to for nearly 5 decades.
Thank you. Yeah, no. So Caroline in full spin control. You know, I will say this. Okay, this is me being objective. Press secretary's job is to paint as positive a picture as possible for the administration. She does that, but the amount of lies that she told just in that statement alone is fucking diabolical. So just real quick, just let's go back in time a little bit just to kind of remind folks about the claims the president has made about these so-called 8 wars that he's ended while he's starting wars. They don't want you to think about that. They don't want you to know about that. So the claims were these are the claims that he made about the wars that he had ended. Okay, I just don't want to forget this. Let's see. Obviously, the first is Israel and the H country. That's never really ended. No peace deal signed. Israel, Iran, and the Middle East war, that's still happening as we speak, literally started by the U.S. at the request of the I country. India and Pakistan. The claim was that he stopped wars and hostilities between the 2 nuclear powers. A ceasefire was reached, but Pakistan thanked the U.S., but India denied U.S. mediation was decisive, and long-term hostility continues. Oh, by the way, Pakistan and Afghanistan are popping off too. Cambodia, Thailand, or in the president's word, Thailand. Ceasefire negotiated between the two following border clashes. The ceasefire initially held, but fighting has since resumed. Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo. The claim was that he helped bring peace talks and agreements forward. Agreements were signed, but the fighting persists in Eastern Congo, and rebel groups rejected the terms. Armenia, Azerbaijan, or Azerbaijan, whatever he said. The claim was that he brokered a peace deal. Status: preliminary agreement was reached and transportation ties discussed, but formal peace treaty has not been ratified and relations remain delicate. Serbia, Kosovo claimed that he resolved a long-standing tension that could lead to war. Tensions remain. There was no active war at the time. Most progress predates Trump's term, and no full resolution has been implemented. And then Egypt, Ethiopia, that ended a potential war over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. This is more of a diplomatic dispute over water rights and a conventional war. Mediation efforts have not fully resolved it. So how many fucking lies? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because we know. We know how many lies there are because that's all he does every single day. Anywho. Good morning. Good morning, Amber.
Bowie.
Good morning.
Bo, come here, Bo.
Okay. Sorry. So there's that, right? And a lot of this has to do with this. Well, I'll call what it is. The claims of it being a holy war, and it's rooted in a lot of interesting rhetoric. So I'm gonna read to you a couple of things that I found that I think are fascinating, which helps I think explain a lot of what we're seeing here. Let's see if I can find this. I had this pulled up. Then we're going to talk about the draft, which is not going to happen, although it's in Project 2025. There's going to be claims about it. All these kinds of things are just out there in our media cycle right now, and you know we have to pay attention to it. I'm not suggesting that it's not going to happen. I'm just suggesting that the amount of rhetoric that they want us to believe is crazy. Hang on one second. Try to deal with tech here, guys. My apologies. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. Give me 1 minute. Having some big tech issues today. I'll fix it though, on the fly. Don't tell my mods, they'll laugh at me. It's tech. Okay. All right. Just got to reset this. Got to reset that. one quick second here. All right. So this is what I'm going to read to you guys now is this thing they refer to as the it's called the evangelical doomsday theology behind America's war with Iran. This is posted by Tim Whitaker. I like Tim Whitaker. He's a great journalist. He does a lot of his posts on Substack, and this is his perspective on this. I'm just going to read this to you. It's called the evangelical doomsday theology behind America's war with Iran. How a British preacher who fell off of his horse at 1827 reshaped Christian politics and the Middle East. This is kind of fascinating. At least I thought it was. All right. What most people don't know is that you can thank a white dude who fell off of a horse in 1827, suffering a serious head injury in the process, who is largely responsible for inventing the end times theology believed by millions of American Christians today. Darby was a British theologian and a leader in a movement known as the Plymouth Brethren in the early 1800s. He began developing a new way of interpreting the Bible that was completely foreign to the Christian tradition. According to Darby's interpretation, the church age would eventually end with an event called the rapture, which we've been waiting for like 10 different times. I'm so bummed. I bought cake, where believers would suddenly vanish from the earth and be taken to heaven. What would follow would be a period of catastrophic suffering known as the tribulation, marked by the rise of the Antichrist, global chaos, and devastating divine judgment. If this storyline sounds familiar, it's because it became the backbone of modern evangelical end times teaching. It fueled prophecy conferences, sermons, movies, and the wildly popular Left Behind series that terrified an entire generation of evangelical kids, including me, or Tim Whitaker, as he's the author. Many of us lived in fear as children that the rapture would occur at any moment, and if we weren't true Christians, would be left behind. Personally, that wasn't my greatest fear. Mine was that Christ would come back before I got married and had sex. I prayed that prayer many times. Dispensationalists interpret various passages in the Bible as yet to come events. Prophecies that have not yet been fulfilled. This goes against the overwhelming consensus of biblical scholarship. The creation of the Israeli state in 1948 was celebrated by many evangelicals as a monumental fulfillment of prophecy, despite being known as the Nakba, the catastrophe for the people of Palestine, due to over 700,000 people becoming instant refugees via being displaced from their homes. Christian Zionists didn't care about that because for them, it meant the prophetic clock ticked one more minute to midnight, from 11:58 to 11:59, midnight being doomsday, Armageddon, the rapture. According to them, we are in the final minutes before the rapture will happen. When you grow up inside this worldview, you're constantly scanning the news for signs that prophecy is unfolding. Every conflict becomes a clue. Every political leader becomes a potential antichrist. And the truly disturbing part is that the suffering caused by these events can start to feel not only inevitable, but necessary, because if war in the Middle East is part of God's prophetic plan, then it's not tragedy. The school children that were just bombed in Iran, they were sacrificed for the greater good of getting us closer to the return of the Christ. We joke about the short-term pain for long-term gain in regards to gas prices. I sort of think you can talk about this evangelical doomsday theology in the same way, right? Again, the school children that we just bombed in Iran, they were sacrificed for the greater good of getting us closer to the return of Christ. This is not a pro-life ethic. This is a pro-death cult that can't wait for the end of the world to arrive, which will be filled with chaos and death. Can we stop and think about how self-centered this theology is? White conservative Christians are literally cheering on G-side in Palestine and dropping bombs in Iran because they believe it's getting us closer to the end of the world. This is a doomsday cult that is in the driver's seat of the world's most powerful military. Can we stop and think, don't believe for a second that these people care about the Jewish people. They don't. In their end time scenario, the Jews are either slaughtered or converted to their version of Christianity. Eventually, the Jews will realize that Jesus was the true Messiah the whole time and will become Christians, or they'll die in war and go to hell forever to be judged. So when Christian nationalists start talking about wars in the Middle East as if they're obvious fulfillments of biblical prophecy, it's important to understand what's actually happening. They're repeating a 19th century interpretive framework created by a British theologian who fell off his horse. Yeah. And then that kind of brings us back to this reporting that we had last week from New Republic, who in other agencies have reported the same thing about military leaders say Iran war is so Trump can bring about Armageddon. Troops have logged more than 110 complaints about such comments with Military Religious Freedom Foundation. Without any clear message coming from the White House with regard to purpose of the Iran war, U.S. military commanders have turned to Jesus, apparently telling the American troops that the war was biblically sanctioned. Jojo just said, we're at war because of a book club. Yeah. The U.S. joined Israel in striking Iran. By Monday evening, the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, or MRFF, was inundated with complaints, receiving more than 110 grievances from the U.S. military personnel stationed at dozens of sites across the Middle East, reported independent journalist Jonathan Larson. One such note included an anecdote from a non-commissioned officer who reported that their commander had, quote, urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan. And he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelations referring to the Armageddon and the imminent return of Christ. The NCO's complaint was lodged on behalf of 15 troops, including 11 Christians, 1 Muslim, and 1 Jew, according to Larson. The officer stated that such remarks, quote, destroy morale and unit cohesion and are in violation of the oaths we swore to support the Constitution. This morning, our commander opened up the combat readiness status briefings by urging us to not be afraid as to what is happening with our combat operations in Iran right now, the NCO wrote. He said that President Trump has been anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth, the NCO continued. He had a big grin on his face when he said all of this, which made his message seem even more crazy. It wouldn't be a stretch to blame some of the blatant constitutional violations on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who repeatedly evoked God and Christian nationalism in his time fronting the Pentagon. Hegseth has parroted the views of Douglas Wilson, a conservative theologian who advocated for Christian dominance over government and society. He has followed through in practice, instating regular prayer services at America's military headquarters. He also entered office with several Christian symbols already emblazoned on his skin, a Jerusalem cross and the phrase Deus
taken care of after the fact. Yeah, Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs is legit. That's legit. Some people are in trouble. Williams, Omari and Hampton. Yeah, there's a lot in there, Germster. We've got Loveland on the base. Scour.
And we're back. Thanks for finding us here, friends. I know. Everybody keep tapping, please. Need your help to get back out to the FYP. Appreciate y'all very much. Hello again. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate you. I know TikTok being rude. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back, guys. I'm going to reset a couple things here on my end. Hopefully that will help clear some stuff up. I know, how dare I educate people? I know, right? Everybody tell your friends this is where we are now, please. Appreciate you. Tapping's clapping, liking's loving, sharing's caring. Hang on one sec. Let me just get some folks back in here. We'll gather again. Everybody keep tapping, please. Yeah, don't know. Just reading a news story. That's all we're doing. Just reading a news story. Yeah, I'm working on that. I got to reset the sound. Hang on. Hang on one second. Just give me a minute. All right. So in case you were with us when we lost contact, ground control to Major Tom, we were talking about some very hardcore evangelical views as to what the purpose of the war in Iran is. And I was talking about the relationship between Pete Hegseth and others in the highly radicalized evangelical movement. So I will finish this story. I'll give some folks a couple minutes here. U.S. service members afforded the religious liberty protections in the First Amendment. They also have a legal right to seek religious accommodations. And the MRFF told Larson that it's been overwhelmed with complaints about commanders who are apparently tapping into the same sort of Christian nationalism espoused by the Pentagon chief. These calls have one damn thing in freaking common. Our MRFF clients, service members who seek MRFF aid, report the unrestricted euphoria of their commanders and command chains as to how this new biblically sanctioned war is clearly the undeniable sign of the expeditious approach of fundamentalist Christians. Fundamental and Christian end of times, as they say. As vividly described in the New Testament book of Revelations, MRFF president and founder Mikey Weinstein, a veteran of Air Force and Reagan White House, told Larson, many of their commanders are especially delighted with how graphic this battle will be, zeroing in on how bloody all this must become in order to fulfill and be in 100% accordance with fundamentalist Christian end of world theology. So there's that. Let me just adjust this. I just lost Discord mods. Give me a second. I can fix it. Okay, done with that. Anywho, you guys know the drill. Tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. Really, really need your help to get back out to the FYP. We had almost like 1,500 people in here, so if you guys would be so kind, this is not our normal home. Let me adjust this since it's been a while over here. I forget what that number was. I think it was 6325. Yes. You want to support the channel for the Do Something tour? You can do so. Yeah, I know it's actually, I've got to fix that. Let me hold on a second. There we go. 81 days. Can you guys hear me okay? Is it sound tinny? Hang on a second. Give me a sec. Okay. Okay. Does that sound all right? Can you hear me now? Does it sound like it's running through the mic? Because I have to have the sound queued up for other things to work. Is that better? Go back the other way. Yay, nay. Good. I lost my mic. Sounds worse. All right, hang on. Stand by. Okay, that's there. Hang on a second. Stand by. Lost the mic and the background noise. There's an echo. It sounds better now. You hear cars. Okay, if I could get, you hear traffic. I just need my mods to tell me if it's working, because it seems like it's working for some people and not working for others. Just give me a second. The mic went off. You sound good on YT, not now. Mic is off. Okay. Give me a second. All right. Now, mic is off. Okay. Give me a second. All right. Friends, does not sound better. All right. Mic is still off. Mic is off. Okay. Let me see here. All right. Much better? No? Yay? Don't touch anything? It's better. Yes? Okay. Thank you. Are you sure you don't want me to touch anything? I'll leave it right there. Nobody say anything. Sit down. Be quiet. All right. Let's get back to the show, shall we? Point is that there is this particular belief set now that is rooted in the justification for this war aligning with Christian nationalist theology for end of time shit. Fucking scary, man. Really scary. But it's where we sit. It's because it's gas prices, short-term pain, long-term gain, right? No big deal that we're now paying 60 cents more per gallon than we were a week and a half ago. No big deal that military personnel have lost their lives. As long as we are doing what the Sky Daddy tells us to do, we're good. Cool. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and let's get to hang on one second. Got to reset this. All kinds of things blew up on me. Hang tight, friends. Okay. All right. So what I want to get into now a little bit is what's referred to as this is all relative to what we're talking about here. It's called Brandolini's Law. And I remember reading about this a long time ago, and then it kind of popped up again. I'm thinking, yeah, that tracks. Having to do with how the media, how our media is harming us because they're not willing to have these conversations, right? Brandolini's Law, also known as the bullshit asymmetry principle. The amount of energy needed to in general, the amount of energy needed to refute bullshit is an order of magnitude larger than the energy needed to produce it. And it is much easier to spread misinformation than it is to debunk it. The concept was coined in 2013 by an Italian programmer named Alberto Brandolini during online political debates. I got some sound from a gentleman who did this little breakdown, and I'll play this for you first, and then we'll get more into the information. Here you go.
Notice how arguing with a Trump supporter feels like arguing with a child. You use facts, they scream fake news. You use logic, they say you have TDS. There's a psychological reason for that, and it explains everything. In 2013, a political researcher named Alberto Brandolini discovered something that changed how we understand political lying. It takes 10 times more energy to disprove a lie than it does to tell a lie. We call it Brandolini's Law. Here's how it works. Producing a lie takes zero effort, no sources, no research, no evidence. You just say it. Disproving that same exact lie requires sources, context, data, peer-reviewed studies that nobody's going to read anyway. Trump uses the same 4 lies on repeat. He said no new wars. We're at war with Iran right now. He said he created the greatest economy in history. It's not. He said the election was stolen. It wasn't. He said crime is at an all-time high. It isn't. 4 lies in 10 seconds. It would take hours to disprove those lies. And by the time you disprove those lies, he has said 30 more lies already. That's Brandolini's law in action. This is why you can't win. You're not having a debate. You're playing a game designed to exhaust you into giving up. Trump doesn't need to win an argument. He just needs to lie faster than you can keep up. His supporters keep falling for the lies because no one ever taught them to question what they hear. They were never given the tools to recognize when they are being lied to. And the people running this game built the system that way on purpose. They keep his followers uneducated for this very reason. They don't need smart followers. They need loyal ones. And the system is working perfectly.
So we have the worst education almost in the large world, the world that people know about. Smart people don't like me. Smart people don't like me. Smart people don't like me.
Okay. Now that you get sort of the baseline, let's unpack a little bit. Friends, if you're just finding us here, this is our backup. Please consider following here. Please consider joining our team here as well. If you have not yet seen us or talk about the Do Something tour, first of all, I'm Facts. You call me Steve. If you're just finding us, thank you for being here. We go live Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till noon Eastern time. We are going out on the road, we being me and a whole bunch of other people will be going on the road over the course of the summer, leading into the fall, leading up to the midterm elections, to have conversations with voters, more importantly, just to listen to people. It's going to require a Herculean effort by a lot of people, and there's a lot of folks that have been really helpful so far getting this off the ground. But if you want to contribute, want to sponsor, you want to support our endeavors, you can support us through Cash App, PayPal, Venmo at Factsstillmatter. That's the count so far as we're marching towards raising 25K. So I'll thank you in advance. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo at Factsstillmatter. I appreciate you guys. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Brandolini's law. Again, the amount they call it's literally referred to as the bullshit asymmetry principle. The amount of energy needed to refute bullshit is an order of magnitude larger than the energy needed to produce it. In simple terms, it is much easier to spread misinformation than it is to debunk it. The concept was coined in 2013 by Italian programmer Alberto Brandolini during an online political debate. Why it happens? Several factors make misinformation easier to create than correct. You guys know me when we talk about misinformation, disinformation, propaganda. So like this is in my sweet spot. I fucking love this shit. I don't love the misinformation. I love trying to tackle it and how we address it. And there's a simple word. The best way to address misinformation, education. Complexity versus simplicity. False claims can be short and simple. Refuting them often requires data, context, and explanation. When Trump says we have the greatest economy, it requires us to say, no, we don't. We just lost 92,000 jobs. Gas prices are at $3.60. Then you get this from the right. You'll get,
nuh-uh.
Well, we've already gone through this exercise. We know that the economy is in horrible shape.
Nuh-uh.
Are you saying that the economy was better under Trump?
Yes.
Well, it's not though.
Nuh-uh.
So that's the problem. Also, time imbalance. A rumor can be written in one sentence. Fact-checking may require hours of research. Psychological effects. People remember dramatic claims more than careful corrections. Once a belief forms, corrections may not fully undo it. And information spread. Social media amplifies fast, emotional content faster than nuanced explanations. Here's one example. Vaccines contain microchips. Refuting it requires explaining it. That's the claim. And then, boom, you light the match and it spreads like fucking wildfire. A flash goal? Let me do that. Thank you. There we go. We need roses. I'll take my flowers. Go ahead. Thank you. Vaccines contain microchips is the claim. Refuting it requires explaining how vaccine ingredients are regulated, how manufacturing works, why microchips could not physically fit or function in that context, and evidence from regulators and scientists. One false sentence may require multiple paragraphs or stories or whatever it might be to debunk it. Why the law is often discussed today. Brandolini's law is frequently cited in discussions about misinformation and disinformation, political propaganda, social media echo chambers, and then media literacy education. And you guys know how I feel about that. Okay, so let's talk about media literacy as it relates to Brandolini's law. Here's 5 real political examples of Brandolini's law. These are relatively recent. Did some research on this, and I kind of ran it through this little exercise that they gave me on this little task assignment that I found, and here's how it applies. Number 1, the weapons of mass destruction narrative from 2002 to 2003, connected to the Iraq War. Claim, Iraq possessed active chemical and or nuclear weapons programs. Why Brandolini's law applied. The claim was simple and repeated widely. Refuting it required intelligence reviews, UN inspections, and years of investigation. Result, the public narrative spread quickly. It took years of reports and investigations to fully show the intelligence failures. I mean, think about that. It put us in war, these lies, and they were lies. There's no denying the fact that even the people who were completely sold on it have now come around and said, "Oh yeah, those were lies." And the machine is happening again, right? Now it's the Iran nuclear program that was obliterated last summer. And now they're in the process of building it again. So let's quickly pause right here. Sorry, no battles. I don't do battles. Pause right here. And let's go to Caroline Levitt because of what she said. Hang on one sec. Everything got all screwed up. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. I'm good. Stand by. My apologies, guys. You guys know I hate it when things go off the rails. Doesn't matter. She talked about how the justification for the war, et cetera, just tapping into the Brandolini's law. There's no doubt about it. The same claims about the nuclear program that we obliterated, that they're not rebuilding it again, blah, fucking blah. All right, number 2, millions of illegal votes in the 2016 U.S. election. The claim, millions of people voted illegally. This is 2020 election, my apologies. Refuting it required state election audits, academic research, court cases, lawsuits, bipartisan election reviews. The result? No evidence of widespread fraud. None. Yet the claim persisted in public discourse for years, and it still exists today, which is where the SAVE Act comes in, right? Death panels connected to the ACA. That the health bill would create government death panels. Reality, the provision actually allowed voluntary end-of-life counseling. Why Brandolini's law applied? The claim was emotionally powerful, explaining the policy required detailed health policy explanations. Result, the phrase became a political talking point despite being false. All of this, I want you to keep this in mind, all of this is what we are fighting against every fucking day. Remember, I told this story before. When I first started on TikTok, it's got to be 5 years ago now. I did it because I wanted to test drive some of my comedy. Like I used to do stand-up comedy a lot. It's been a while since I've done it. I'm like, you know what? There's an audience for this. Maybe I can just tell jokes. I can critique myself. I can do a set. I can watch it back. Maybe people will comment. But then I'm like, man, oh man, there is a ton of fucking misinformation and disinformation. Don't facts still matter anymore? And here we are today. C-19 microchip for tracking conspiracies. The claim the vaccines contain microchips or tracking devices. The refuting required, explaining vaccine manufacturing, the ingredients list, regulatory oversight, and supply chain logistics. Scientific explanations were far more complex than the original claim. Point is, you can say whatever the fuck you want. People can just do it. People can just fucking do it. Yeah, exactly, Chris. That's my origin story. It's a true story. It's taken years, and there are still people that hold on to that All it took was one person to make one statement, one sentence, and boom, it spread like wildfire. Pizzagate. This is an interesting one, right? Washington, D.C. restaurant ran a child trafficking ring. Reality, completely fabricated internet conspiracy. We certainly do know, though, that the Pizzagate thing, as far as the adrenochrome and the base of pizza shops and pizza parlors, does have a little bit of truth to other things that we've learned. We're going to get into that in a little bit later. The consequences: a man brought a rifle to the restaurant investigating the claim. Why Brandolini's law applied? Thousands of posts spread this story. Journalists and investigators had to systematically debunk each piece. Again, the concept here is the conspiracy, the propaganda, the misinformation is more powerful than the truth. Not that it is the truth, it's just more powerful because of what's required to fix it. What's the old adage? It takes more muscles to smile than it does to frown. It's true. Similarly here, it takes more work to debunk something that's complete fucking bullshit than it is to spread the bullshit to begin with. All right. How propaganda campaigns exploit Brandolini's law. They use several tactics. One, flood the zone. Where you heard that before. We've heard that is a scripted approach to how they spread disinformation. We're going to flood the zone. More muscles to frown than smile. Did I say that backwards? Yeah, I think I said that backwards. They're going to flood the zone. This is why this image, I think, is perfect. And thank you, Legend, for this background, right? We're going to just all kinds of shit. Impossible to keep up. Look over there. There's a war happening. Journalists are like, okay, what do I focus on? We focus on this. We'll talk about that because it's important, but we're focusing on this because of what's happened and because of who the victims are, the survivors are. Point being, it is a strategy. Steve Bannon's talked about it. Roger Stone has talked about it. This is a Roy Cohn method. This is what you do. You flood the zone with as much information as possible, knowing full well that we don't have the capacity as humans to process it all, which is why you see dribs and drabs of the Epstein files, the Trump files coming out, which is why you see little nugget here, little nugget there, people going in different directions. That is by design. All right. You produce large numbers of misleading claims so opponents cannot debunk them all. This tactic has been attributed to political media strategies and disinformation campaigns. Number two, emotional simplicity. False narratives are designed to be short, emotional, memorable. Lock her up. Stop the steal. Fuck Joe Biden. Part of the strategies. These are as a marketer and somebody who grew up doing it, it's the most effective. It's some of the most effective messaging you'll ever find. Where's the beef? Be like Mike. Just do it. These are tested, proven. Oh, God damn it. They're out to get us today, guys. Okay. I really need your help. I need you guys to tap like crazy. Okay. We just got a restriction again for misinformation. I don't know what for, but I really need your help. So if you have any gifts that you've not yet given them, please do that. I need you to tap like crazy. I need you to like and share and repost the live. I really need your help. If you enjoy what we do here, this is where I really need you all to kind of help us out. Don't forget, we're still raising money for the Do Something Tour. You can do so at Factsstillmatter, at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo. If we go down, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're here. So we're going to talk about it. I'm just sharing some examples of things that have been, I'll figure it out. Okay, we're going to set another gift goal here. Hold on a second. Let me do this. I'm going to pin that one. Okay. All right. Moving the goalposts, another strategy. Once one claim is disproven, another appears. An example, claim A spreads, claim A is debunked, claim B appears immediately. Like when people say it's not a war. When the president, when the SecDef, when all members of the cabinet are talking about it in terms of war, they'll say, well, it's not really a war because we haven't declared war since World War II. Moving the goalpost argument happens all the fucking time. The thing to me that I struggle with when this whole exercise is that people on the right who are subjected to conspiracies and propaganda disinformation just because they don't have the best critical thinking skills don't even know that they're following the script perfectly, which is again Brandolini's law. It's so easy to spread misinformation because you don't have to do the work. That's why we spend so much time trying to debunk it as best we can. It's not always perfect. We don't always get it right. Our commitment to you guys is we're going to try to unpack it as best we can. So that's moving the goalposts. Information overload. Disinformation actors intentionally create confusion, not necessarily belief. The goal would be to make people conclude no one knows what's true. When the president says things like no one's ever seen before, stuff like that, those are diversionary tactics designed to overload you with information. Oh, well, no one's ever seen it. Well, he's super smart. I got to trust him. Cool. And then our favorite, echo chambers. Algorithms amplify claims within like-minded communities. Corrections rarely reach those audiences. How do I easily explain this? So, sure, people could say that what we do here is an echo chamber. That's fine. Is it though? Is it really? If you're sharing the news and you're citing court cases and you're attempting to try to back it up with evidence and you're doing the best to debunk conspiracies, is that an echo chamber? Sure, because the bulk of the people who follow me here or on the main or join our community are likely leaning the same way politically as I do, right? On the progressive side, right? An echo chamber would be people who are, especially the paneled environment. I'll only use TikTok as an example. Everybody in there are not willing to contradict claims. They'll say something and people will be like, yep, even though they might think it to be false, they're now in a safe space. They now can say like, well, I read that we're the only country that has tomahawks, for example. It's a new story. So the president comes out and says other countries have them too. Iran stole one and then he used that tomahawk to take out a school. Now, people who are in the echo chamber would be like, I thought the US was, but everybody else that's in this room with me is saying, no, Iran stole one, or they've always had them, and then that's how that misinformation spreads, right? So that one person tells two people, those two people tell four people, those four people tell 10 people, and so on and so forth. That's how it spreads. That's how it spreads so fucking quickly. Echo chambers, super dangerous. Left-leaning echo chambers are super dangerous as well. The whole point, the reason why, and I've done this in left panels, and I've called out friends of mine for spreading misinformation. That's why I am so diligent when people come up here to state something as fact. And friend or foe, my mods know this about me. It's just, this is the rule that we've always had. If you have something you want to share, I'm not going to put my stamp on it until we can confirm it, right? It's one thing to say, have you heard this story? Then we'll be like, no, we haven't. Please either post it in the Discord or message one of the mods so that we can discuss it in earnest before we share it, because we don't ever want to be in a situation where we spread misinformation. Now, I cannot promise you that I've not, in however long I've been doing these lives, that I've ever shared misinformation with you. It's never my intention. It's absolutely never my intention. We only go based on what we can see, what we can verify, what we can fact check, and how we fact check it. It's not easy. Just sometimes do things get out there? Sure. But that's never our intention. It's never our intention. And people who spread misinformation, it's not their intention either. That's the danger of misinformation. Disinformation, intentional. Misinformation, not. Those are the fundamental differences between the two. And I've got a little quiz for you coming up in just a bit, so please stay tuned. All right. Then media literacy. This is all part of the Brandolini law. So the first piece was examples. The second section would be how propaganda campaigns can exploit people. And then the next piece would be how media literacy exercises, how they work and how they apply. So if you want to debunk the claim, right, you start it, then you spread it. Actually, do I want to do this right now? No, I'm going to move on to something different. Let's go to the quiz. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I just want you to give me the best answer that you think. Okay? You're going to have 4 choices. Your choices are A, it's accurate reporting. B, misleading or missing context. C, it's false or misinformation. And then D, it's opinion framed as fact. Okay? A would be accurate. B would be misleading or missing context. C would be false or misinformation. And then D would be opinion framed as fact. Okay? Are you ready? Keep track of your own score. I will give you the answers at the end. Question 1. Actually, I'll give you the answers as we go. Question 1. Wind turbines cause cancer. Is that accurate reporting, misleading or missing context, false or misinformation, or opinion framed as fact? What do you think? C. A lot of people saying C. Okay. B and C and D. All right. So I'll give you the answer as we go. Question 1. The answer is C. It's false. The claim was widely repeated after a political comment, but has no scientific evidence. All right? You guys are going to be so fucking media literate when I'm done with you all. Seriously. It's my goal. Question 2. Here's the headline. Millions of illegal votes were cast in the U.S. election. Is it accurate? Is it misleading? Is it false? Or is it opinion framed as fact? Okay. See a lot of C's. All right. So let's see a lot of falses. Question number 2, millions of illegal votings. That would be C. The answer is it's false. Extensive audits, court cases, and bipartisan investigations found no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Okay. All right. Question 3. Scientists say climate change is accelerating faster than predicted. Would that be, again, accurate? A. B, misleading. C, false or misinformation. Or D, opinion. Okay. Lots of A's. All right. A, that it's accurate. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have found warning trends faster than some earlier projections. That's a really dangerous one, right? Because we know that. Because a lot of people will say, well, sure, the climate changes, but we know it's faster than expected because of human intervention, right? You guys are doing good so far. How's everybody doing, right? Do you need to bribe the teacher? It's fine. I take bribes. All right. Question number 4. Vaccines contain microchips used to track people. Is it accurate, misleading, false, or opinion? Okay, let's find the answer. It's false. Vaccine ingredients are publicly documented and regulated. No microchips exist in vaccines. Good work. All right. Back up to our questions again. Where are we? Number 5, crime is at the highest level in U.S. history. Is that false? I'm sorry, is it accurate, misleading, false, or opinion? That crime is at the highest level in U.S. history. It's misleading. It's B. Crime trends fluctuate. Violent crime today is much lower than in the early 1990s peak. Yeah, so that would be misleading, right? Not entirely false, but misleading. It's tough. It's another one. Let's see. The Affordable Care Act created government death panels. Accurate, misleading, false, or opinion? Accurate, misleading, false, or opinion that the Affordable Care Act created government death panels? That would be false. The healthcare law included voluntary end-of-life counseling, not government decisions about who lives or who dies. It's not easy, is it? I know you're frustrated with yourselves. It's not easy. That's the point, right? It's not supposed to be easy. It's exactly the idea. That's why it is so important. That's why I am so uptight about this shit. And it drives me crazy. Like I always tell you guys, like I try not to go into panel lives anymore because it's just not good for my mental health. But when I see people just obviously sharing misinformation, it drives me fucking crazy. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, all right, new question. Let's see. Scientists discover a new Earth-like planet that may support life. Is that accurate, misleading, false, or opinion? What do you think? It's accurate. Yes, accurate reporting. Astronomers regularly identify exoplanets and habitable zones, though Earth-like does not mean life exists there. Cool. Let's go. We should get there before. That should be Amazonia. Should be a world for just women. Y'all can leave. Go for it. Start a new land. Leave us behind. We fuck shit up. Let us just fuck shit up here. You go out and start your own fucking society and enjoy the fruits of your labor. There you go. All right. Number 8. Electric vehicles are worse for the environment than gasoline cars. Is that accurate, misleading, false, or opinion? It's misleading. It's B. It's misleading. EV production has higher emissions initially, but most studies show lower lifetime emissions overall. Number 9. Question number 9 is this. A migrant caravan is invading the U.S. Again, is it accurate, misleading, false, or opinion? They are hard, aren't they? Yeah, that's the whole point. The guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. I wouldn't give this quiz to just anybody. Step up your game. All right. The question is, a migrant caravan is invading the United States. The answer is opinion framed as fact. Invasion is a political framing, not a neutral description of migration. That one's tough. And then here's the last one. Be honest with your scores. AI could eliminate millions of jobs in the next decade. Is that accurate, misleading, false, or opinion? The answer is it's misleading. Research suggests that job displacement and job creation, but not purely elimination. All right, you ready for your score? Don't kick yourself. If you got below 5, you are highly vulnerable to misinformation. Okay? If you got 5 to 6 correct, you have moderate awareness. That's opinion, yes. If you got 7 to 8 correct, you are a strong critical thinker. And if you got between 9 and 10, you have excellent media literacy. So where'd you score? How'd you do? These are hard, right? These are hard. I'll post this. I had AI kind of help me create the quiz with some information that I got from Brandolini's Law. I'll post this for you guys. The point is, if you really sort of take a step back and sort of analyze what it was that was shared with you to say, okay, how do I do that? Where does that come from? Be careful with your confirmation bias, though, because if you are only going to seek out information that you know would support your beliefs, then that's dangerous too, right? I'm going to check in with my mods. How did they do? How'd you guys do? Damn it. Jess, it's okay. Okay. Just making sure you guys are good. Yes. Yes. Strong critical thinking. Good. Okay. For the most part, it's not easy. The cautionary tale for me is this. Always check your sources. Be willing to be wrong, right? Be willing to understand that you may not have all the information and that you want to find something that's going to support you. We can use the e-files as a perfect example. I know all of you don't give a flying fuck who's in there, but people are really rallying to their safe spaces to defend their side, so to speak. That's dangerous, right? If you need to be more aware, there's all kinds of exercises that you can for media literacy. Just read. Go to alternative sources. This is one of the exercises that I do. Like I try to find, again, poking a hole in the myth that the conservative right thinks that all media in America is left-wing radical, when legacy media in our country is conservative, right? So find one that you might find that's on the left. People want to say, MSNBC or whatever that might be. There's just not the same extreme on the left from a misinformation perspective as there is on the right. Don't forget, the right's design is to mislead. The right's design is to throw chum in the water to get their people off the scent. Case in point. So you can't really do the comparison. But spend a couple hours a week watching Fox. Spend a couple of hours a week watching Newsmax, right? Or a podcast. I say that because, one, it helps you understand the argument if you're interested in these kinds of things. I know, Jojo, right? If you're interested in these kinds of things, it helps you kind of understand so that you can be prepared in these debates. Like, where the fuck did that come from? And you're like, oh, I get it. I totally understand. I totally get it. And then conversely, if you don't watch legacy media at all, find the same story and report on it. There's Straight Arrow News. I'm not sponsored. I'd love to be. If you're out there, Straight Arrow News, and you want to sponsor our show, let me know. They do this really cool breakdown. They talk about media misses by the left or by the right, and then they break down how the story gets covered and by whom, which is a great exercise because you can have the same information. We can look at the situation with the girls' school. We obviously know that it was a U.S. Tomahawk missile that targeted, that hit that building that took it out. The right is trying to run with the narrative that Iran stole the missile. There's no way the U.S. would ever do that. We don't target civilians. That's a perfect example, and you can see how these entities will cover it. What I've noticed in the last year has been Fox even challenging some of the stuff that's coming from the administration and being critical and calling out Republican members of Congress. Not as much as they should, but more than I've ever seen before. So it's an interesting exercise. It's an interesting exercise.
Pretty good. How's it going today?
It's good. What's going on?
Hey, so I wanted to touch on one thing, what you were saying before I get into election stuff today. I think what people tend to, like with the media bias check really breaks it down. What you're talking about, in my perspective, at least in my understanding, is the difference between credibility, factuality, and biasy. There are biases baked into the vast majority of media sources, but biases is what is the language that you use in order to convey your point. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are not factual or not credible. We're talking about with extreme left, how there's a lack of extreme left-wing sources. It's because the credibility and the factuality of those sources, rarely do they hit below medium. They may be biased, leaning over, over to the left in a large swing, but that is just like saying like undocumented rather than just the actual term by DHS. Whereas, on the right wing, it is illegal alien, right? This is just the terminology that they use in order to convey their information. So what I understand from my takeaway from it is the difference between biasy and actual factuality. Correct. Left-wing sources tend to have a higher factuality rating and a higher credibility score than right-wing.
You're absolutely right. And I was just about to go through an exercise on that.
Oh, yeah.
Here's an example. Stick around. Here's an example. So I use media bias fact check. I've talked about it before. The work that I do, that's my real job, requires me, if I provide information if I cite a source, if I'm writing a speech, or if I'm writing a business publication for one of my clients, I have to source that to determine what the source was, where the source posted this, and whether or not the source is credible. I've been using media bias fact check for a very long time. My reputation, my livelihood, my income is based on whether or not I get shit right, because I can't allow my clients to be exposed. I don't want to get sued. So I spend a lot of fucking time on this. Let's use Newsmax as a perfect example, because they're gaining popularity. They are gaining credibility. When you use media bias fact check as a tool, it rates exactly what Manny and I were just discussing. So from a sourcing perspective, this is what the scorecard is on Newsmax. Newsmax is an American conservative biased news and opinion website. Conservative bias. We all walk around with bias. Every single one of us, every day. The question then becomes factual accuracy and credibility. This website was founded by Christopher Ruddy in 1998. It is based in West Palm Beach, Florida. Christopher Ruddy is the president and CEO of Newsmax Media. According to Atlantic article, Ruddy is a close friend of Donald Trump. Okay, so the scorecard is they're rated questionable: conspiracy theories, pseudoscience, propaganda, fake news, failed fact checks. We rate Newsmax right biased, which is fine, but questionable based on the promotion of conspiracy theories and pseudoscience, as well as numerous failed fact checks. That's Newsmax. So give me something, Manny, that you would consider left-leaning.
I think the most, and I don't actually go to this source too often at all, but I think the most left-leaning source I've ever seen from is going to be the Daily Beast. I think.
Okay, let's check it out. I would agree. Actually, I think that's a really good example. So again, Newsmax, bias. Nothing wrong with bias. We all have it. The question then becomes, what do they do with it? Let me get this one loading. Sometimes this website is poorly performing. Here we go. All right, the Daily Beast. I'm going to run through this exact same filter. Their bias is going to be left of center. So not as far to the left as Newsmax was to the right. Their scorecard, though, overall, we rate the Daily Beast left bias based on story selection and editorial positions that favor the left. We also rate them mixed for reporting due to one failed fact check. So they're still listed as medium from a credibility perspective. It's a fundamental difference. So I would agree that the Daily Beast is probably as far left as we'll see. But if you use that as far to the left as you're going to go compared to Newsmax, which was conspiracy theories, pseudoscience, numerous failed fact checks, then you can make your own decisions as to how you want the news covered. And I don't think Daily Beast necessarily covers the news. Yeah. They report on stories. I don't know if they're a news agency.
Yeah, that's why I don't really read them. Yeah, that's why I don't really read them, because they cover like, I don't want to say op-eds, but it's akin to op-eds, just minor, like,
correct,
just stories, not really like a full like arc of what's going on in a nation. But I can't think of anything, because I don't really read those types of sources to begin with, to be honest. Someone said Ground News, when they do their rating, they're doing it on the individual article that they're showing you. It's not on the actual business. So when they show you an article and say CNN is like left, right? They're doing it based on the article, not on CNN exactly. When they show you, a lot of times, I think they put like the Independent. I think the Independent there is left. It's based on that article. It's not actually based on where Independent as a company lies. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to remind people that today's the day, guys. It's the 10th. It's the 10th. What's today? It's election day. You live in Georgia? It's election day. You know someone that lives in Georgia? It's election day. It's election day, guys. The 10th. Georgia has massive primaries, statewide primaries, as well as MTG's replacement up until November. Go out and vote. Everyone, go out and vote. It is election day, everyone. Georgia also has, I believe, 3. I can't remember them off the top of my head right now. They have 3 special elections, and then New Hampshire has 1. New Hampshire has 1 special election. That is somebody who's going to currently sit in your state house. And then there are 3 special elections in Georgia that are somebody who's going to sit in your state house, as well as MTG seat, and then statewide primaries. It's election day, everybody. Georgia, it's election day. I have gotten the actual date, the calendar date wrong. It is the 14th. The 14th is not a Tuesday. So if you saw that post, it's not a Tuesday. I was shocked as well. No, the 14th is a Saturday, everyone. That is Louisiana's election day. Everybody, this week, Georgia's today, Louisiana, 6 special elections on Saturday. Louisiana and Georgia, southern states. You guys can take hold of the state elections. You guys can take hold of their state house, their state senate. Please go and vote. I don't cover the ballot initiatives. I don't cover everything that goes on in every single state. Please go and look into what is going on in your state. Please go out and vote. Vote. That's all I got. Thanks, Steve.
Love that. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, brother. Have a good day. Be safe out there. He's right. He's absolutely right. It's election day, and thank you for that reminder, Manny. Let's just close this particular loop with Ground News. Ground News is a great example. Ground News, Straight Arrow News, right in the middle, factually. Overall, we rate in their least bias. They're literally right in the middle from a bias perspective because they just report on the evidence from the story without editorial commentary, just the evidence. Overall, we rate Ground News least biased based on publishing news stories from both sides of the political spectrum and appropriately labeling their bias. We also rate them mostly factual rather than high due to the use of poor sources that can publish false or misleading information. However, these news stories are typically reported by other credible media outlets, meaning they most likely are factual. They score high from a credibility perspective. So that's a great resource for you. Ground News, Straight Arrow News, they generally do the same kinds of things, right? Editorial is bias. You're going to walk around every single day, right? Like I'm going to say that, that I'm biased because pineapple does not belong on pizza. That's a fact. I'm not going to debate that shit. Anyway, you get the point. We all have biases. Navigating through them to try to be objective is really difficult. That's why we're doing this today. So hopefully you appreciate this. All right, a few more things I wanted to cover on this topic, and we'll get back into the news. So how did you do in general? Did you guys do okay? I mean, I don't want you to beat yourself up. I know my mods are going to be kicking me in the shins, literally, because, they're fucking smart and they don't like to go through these quizzes. It is what it is. But I want people to really, especially now, they are absolutely trying to flood the zone by distracting you from everything. And you as the individual, we appreciate the people look to us to try to navigate through this bullshit. We'll do our best, but it's not always easy, right? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to screw up. We're going to own it if we do, which is why we are very cautious about how we break stories. Again, I've said this before, we would rather be last than accurate than first than wrong, because we certainly don't want to be part of spreading misinformation and disinformation. So thank you for that, friends. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about Howard Nutlick, because Howard is in the news again, because he's going to be testifying this time in front of the House committee. His name is prominently featured in the Jeffrey files, the Trump files, I should say. And it's because of the amount of lies that he has told. There's a couple of things from this podcast that he did with sponsored by the New York Post a while back that I didn't really pick up on the first time. We're going to talk about that in a second. So let's go back in time to this infamous interview that he did. Hang on, let me just get this loaded up here. This infamous interview that he did on the New York Post's podcast. I'm going to play some of the sound for you, and then we'll talk about it.
Welcome back to Podforce One. I'm Miranda Devine, and today I'm with Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce.
Podforce One. Could you spend a little bit more time coming up with something more creative than that?
Howard Lutnick, thank you for joining Podforce One. You're a New Yorker. You have known Donald Trump for 30 years. You know everybody. Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, Jeffrey Epstein was your neighbor. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about him. East 71st Street. He was your neighbor for 10 years. How well did you know him?
All right. So we are in number 11 and he lives in number 9.
Right.
So we renovate, we buy our house, and our house is pigeons and mice.
Right.
Okay. It was derelict.
Right.
So we rebuild our house. We move in 2005. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 2008, I think, or something like that.
Right.
So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. So my wife and I go next door. We walk the 7 steps,
yes,
right, to the next house for coffee. We share a wall.
Right.
So it's in New York City. So he invites us in. We have coffee in this And he says, do you want a tour? We said, great.
Interesting.
He's got a really big house.
Every room you went into?
He's got, well, I'll tell you. So his house is like super big, really wide. And so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room. And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very So
I know people have made comments about the reaction of the person interviewing him, but she's doing this intentionally. She's doing this, it's a strategy. You know, they teach this in sales training classes about trying to make your customer, your prospect, your interviewee comfortable. So she's doing this to try to make him feel comfortable so that he'll continue to talk. Exactly. Show some interest. Exactly.
Insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me. And he says, and the right kind of massage. Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross. And so I look back at it as a gift.
Yes.
He gave me a gift.
Yes.
Of avoid. And so, yeah, that's my story. A one and absolutely done.
Right. So, I mean, that's an incredible story that you could pick up that he was a pervert.
It's gross. The guy's gross. Right with my wife. He's gross. The guy's gross. This was not, the deep nuance of Howard Lutnick. This guy's gross.
Right. So how come Bill Gates and all these other people could hang around him and not see what you saw? Or did they see it and ignore it? Or
no, they participated.
Right.
That's what his MO was, get a massage, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever. Blackmailed people. That's how he had money. So
what happened to those videos? Why is there now such a dearth of information when, Donald Trump's people are running the FBI and the DOJ?
I assume way back when they traded those videos in exchange for him getting that 18-month sentence, which allowed him to have visits and be out of jail. I mean, he's a serial sex offender. How could he get 18 months and be able to go to his office during the day and have visitors and stuff?
Great question.
It must have been a trade. So my assumption, I have no knowledge, but my assumption is there was a trade for the videos because there were people on those videos.
And have you talked to Donald Trump about this and shared your theory?
No, I mean, he knows the story.
Right.
But my story, that, I was one and done with the guy. He knows that story, but that's it.
He would have been interested in that story.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just a story. It's just a one and done. That guy.
Just a one and done.
And did Trump feel the same way about him?
I don't speak to him about these kind of.
You don't know?
These are just distractions.
Interesting.
The thing about the president is I'm doing the most important thing that I see. And then right after we do that, he does 10 other things that are as, if not more important, that are not my thing.
Right.
I'm going to pause there briefly. You heard what he said. Okay. Then there's this other little moment
what
that
we did is I had
that I missed
4 screens,
I missed
giant 80s.
I missed from the first time. This is all part of that same interview. Then we're going to go back and talk a little bit more about, how what he just said was a complete fucking lie. Keep in mind, this guy, he's obviously fucking lying. We've got the video, we've got the pictures, etc. But he is a person who was advising the president on picking the cabinet. Here you go.
What we did is I had 4 screens, 4 giant 85-inch.
This is in a big room in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, in Mar-a-Lago. 4 screens behind him, 4 screens behind me.
Yeah.
That mirrored each other. So you and I could sit across from each other. You could see the screen over my shoulder,
right,
but I didn't have to sort of go look around. Yeah. I could see it right over your shoulder. And each screen had candidates, and it had their resume, it had their video speaking, so you could see how they present on TV, all
so
the
you'd have
details
like
about
Hegseth,
them. Correct.
Christy
and all the other people. But
right.
It started with 12 jobs, national security. And then I'd say to him, he'd walk in, I'd go, pick a job, any job.
Yeah.
And he'd say, okay, Secretary of State. And up would come 8 pictures.
Right.
And then he'd say, okay, let's pick Marco Rubio. And then all the details of Marco Rubio. Beautiful picture of Marco Rubio, right? All his details, all his and background, everything you'd want to know, page after page after page. And the next candidate.
So that guy was helping pick other cabinet secretaries. And then there's this other little piece.
If you attack Donald Trump, it charges his batteries. It doesn't back away. You know, Donald Trump, I've never seen him on his back foot. Like, you come at him with energy, you just charged him up. He's coming back at you at double.
That explains a lot.
Right? So he's like a centrifuge. You know, you go in and it goes zing, and he goes back at you faster.
Right.
So if you want to negotiate with him, I said, use your superpower. She says, what's that? I go, you're a woman of great authority. Just speak that way. When he says, I'd like to do X, if you disagree, say, oh, no. You know, that's too much. Like, don't say no. No, don't do that. Because if you go at Donald Trump, he's going to win. So September 11th is the first day of my oldest son. He's 29. It's like 2 minutes before. And remember, you know, Autographs had like a little timestamp in the little right-hand corner in orange.
Wow.
You know, so we have that photo. And then we went upstairs. They told me a plane hit the building.
You're in the school then?
In the school.
Right.
And then my phone keeps ringing, but I have a flip phone. But there's no one on the other end. So just before they came and told me a plane hit the kept ringing, I kept saying, like, I was annoyed. Like, they can't just leave me alone for an hour to take my kid to school. I always have to be, something has to call me from work. And then an administrator came in and told me.
He's talking about, because his company, Cantor Fitzgerald, had the most employees, I think, of any one company, loss of life connected to 9/11, right? So this is a wide-ranging, this is a little section. The part that I want you to listen to is coming up.
Plane hit the building.
Wow.
So I said to my wife, you stay with my son, and I'm going to go. So, but I hadn't seen a video, right? This is like streaming video on your phone, small Cessna.
Yeah.
You know. So I go right to Fifth Avenue. You know, I've been working at the World Trade Center so I know the building. And by the time you get to the Village, you can see and you can see smoke rising. So I'm right with my wife.
Here we go.
Gross.
Here we go.
Right with the guy's gross. Right with my wife. And like, he's gross. The guy's gross. This is not, the deep nuance of Howard Lutnick. This guy's gross.
Right. So how come Bill Gates and all these other people could hang around him and not see what you saw? Or did they see it and ignore it? Or
no, they participated.
Right.
That's what his MO was, you know, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was on video.
Okay. Tried to paint the picture there for you. So then when he shows up to testify in front of the Senate, right, this information came out. So these pictures, these time-stamped emails, these requests to go to the island, to have whatever else, right? Whatever else, all came out in the files. So then he's being questioned by Senator Van Hollen, and this is very interesting. Now that you've heard that, keep his picture in mind and listen to his explanation.
A meeting, and why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York. right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. That is none.
Okay, so you lied, right? So you're lying either now under oath or you lied during your interview on Pod Force 1, right? Because you said that's it. Gross, this guy's gross, never again, never going to be alone again, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
For 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person.
Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well.
Are these your kids? I'm just asking because they don't look like they would need a nanny. I'm just asking, who are these other people? There's another couple, right? Are you having lunch on the boat or not? Howard, let's go through that again, please. Thanks.
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife.
You had lunch on the island for an hour. Were you waiting for the barbecue when you were just taking a little tour, Howard? So you knew what Mr. Epstein was doing. You talked about that. You said this guy is gross, never again. And you thought it was good judgment to just put your kids on a boat and take them over to this island with your nannies, plural, and you were only there for an hour? Really? You want people to believe that, don't you, Howard? Okay.
All together, we were on family vacation. I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation.
Okay.
My wife was with me, as were my...
You had lunch with him on a boat? Let me make sure I get that quote right.
Island.
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. Okay. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Mr. Secretary, again.
You don't recall why you did it. You ever notice that you try to make the claim, the exercise that we just went through, right, about the misinformation, disinformation propaganda? He is flat out fucking lying. There's no doubt in my mind. There should be no doubt in anyone's mind. Don't forget, the emails from the files that were released that we got access to speak to more than just this casual, let's just swing by for lunch. And again, the question that I have to ask is the obvious. If you go on the record saying this guy is gross, never again, never again. Your wife said the same thing. Let me just make sure I have this. I want to make sure I get this exactly right. Hang on.
See it and ignore it, or
no, they participate weirdly close to me.
Oh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now, my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Okay. So let's just make sure, let's just level set in a few things. First of all, this podcast was October the 1st of last year. Okay. So he's already a cabinet secretary. You just heard what he said, that he and his wife discussed after the whole massage table, the right kind of massage. This guy's gross. Never again, never again, never again, never again, never again. So Howard, you were lying in that statement. It's obvious based on the timestamp because you're a hell of a lot younger here. So are these your kids? They don't look like they need nannies, plural. Why are you going there if this guy, as you described him, is gross? You said you took your wife. Why would your wife go? Did she go? Don't see her in any pictures. Who are these people? Are they going to be interviewed? Pam Bondi, looking at you. Oh, by the way, President Trump, J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Todd Lyons, Todd Blanche, et cetera, cabinet members, everybody in charge of the federal government. I'm Steve. Factsstillmatter. I go live Monday through Friday, 8 till noon Eastern time. Fuck you. Cool, you have a day. So, Howard, when you testify in front of the House, you're going to have some explaining to do, aren't you? Because it doesn't track your story at all. Because you are lying and you're still lying. So this story, this is from March 3rd. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has agreed to testify as part of the Oversight Committee's investigation into JE. Lutnick has proactively agreed to appear voluntarily before the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. I commend his demonstrated commitment to transparency and appreciate his willingness to engage with the committee. I look forward to his testimony, said James Comer. At a Senate hearing last month, Lutnick acknowledged visiting Epstein's Island in 2012, but denied any wrongdoing in connection with the late convicted sex offender, his former neighbor. Lutnick told Axis, which reported the news of his testimony, quote, I look forward to appearing before the committee. I have done nothing wrong, and I want to set the record straight. No one is sitting here accusing you of some of the same crimes that this guy committed or others. No one's doing that, Howard. But your credibility, my guy, is fucking gone. If you did nothing wrong, then why did you lie to the New York Post? Why? Why did you lie? Did you think people were not going to find this out? Did you think you were going to be protected? That's it, isn't it? That's it. You felt like you were going to be protected, which again is why so many people in Trump's cabinet and his circle, that's why they're all there, because they're all part of it. From Alex Acosta back to the first administration to Kevin Warsh, who's likely going to be the next Fed Reserve. His name's in the files. Howard Lutnick, Bill Barr, Clarence Thomas's name is in there. Again, I'm not accusing any of them of crimes. I'm just saying, is it just a coincidence that all these people are in the files? Because Steve Bannon, exactly. Because they're all just protecting each other. This is the fucking swamp. There is no swampier shit than this. So he's got a lot of explaining to do. Lutnick told Axis, which first reported the news of his testimony, I look forward to appearing before the committee. I have done nothing wrong, and I want to set the record straight. Well, you've lied. Okay? You've lied. The White House and the Commerce Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. No date was announced for the interview, which comes after files the Justice Department released under the Epstein Files Transparency Act showed Lutnick had more ties to Epstein than previously were known. Yes, we know that. Let me give you some more details on that. At least a half dozen top officials in Trump's current administration have connections to JE, according to an NBC News review of the files. This includes Howard Nutlick, along with many others. No date was announced. Comer also requested transcribed interviews for 7 key witnesses, including Bill Gates and Catherine Rumler. Let's get them on the record too, who have both come under scrutiny after the Justice Department released emails from the files showing their ties to the late convicted offender. The requests, which were sent off to each of the witnesses and letters, are for voluntary interviews. No subpoenas were issued. Why were subpoenas not issued? Why were Hillary and Bill Clinton subpoenaed? And why aren't these people? Because these people are in the orbit, as was Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton lied. There's no doubt in my mind that he lied. I have no question in my mind that he lied. So how do we process this information, right? How do we look at this picture, right? How do we look at this when we have a Commerce Secretary? And by the way, friends, I'm sure you probably knew this, Cantor Fitzgerald, his sons now run the company. He's still an advisor. He apparently has separated himself from the day-to-day. They hedged on the Supreme Court overturning tariff policies. I shit you not. They bet that the Supreme Court was going to say these tariffs are illegal. And sure enough, the Supreme Court ruled, and Cantor Fitzgerald and its clients stand to make tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, that guy. But again, what about Biden? What about Hunter's cock? Lutnick told the New York Post in October that he thought Epstein was disgusting and that he had wanted nothing to do with him after Epstein, a politically connected financier, made the inappropriate remark while he and his wife visited his townhouse in 2005. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business or even philanthropy. That guy was there. I wasn't going because he's gross, he told the paper. The files, however, showed Lutnick and Epstein emailing in 2012 about a possible boat trip to his private island and then appearing to invite Epstein to a Hillary Clinton fundraiser in 2015. Lutnick's agency initially sidestepped questions about whether he took the boat trip, but Lutnick acknowledged that he had during his Senate hearing last month. Quote, "My wife was with me, as were my 4 children. I had another couple. They were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour." Okay. He said there was nothing untoward about the trip, but could not recall why they took it. The Commerce Department has not responded to inquiries about the fundraising email. The committee deposed Clinton last week, and she said that she had gotten to know Lutnick after his financial firm lost hundreds of employees during the 9/11 terrorist attacks, but she'd never met with Epstein. She has never been accused of any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein. The Commerce Department said in a statement after the emails were released that, quote, "Secretary Lutnick had limited interactions with Mr. Epstein in the presence of his wife and has never been accused of wrongdoing." That's the statement? Okay, Howard. All right. We see you. We see you, Howard. Real quick, let me just check over here. For those of you friends, this is our backup. We got a flag this morning. Unfortunately, let's see. I want to thank Stephanie. Thank you so very much, Stephanie. You're very kind. Appreciate you. Stephanie says, it's a bribe. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate you. That's very kind of you. Amy, thank you for starting the Dollar Train. I appreciate you very, very much. That's very kind of you. Also over here, we've got, I don't think I mentioned this one yesterday. Hang on a sec. Kai, thank you very much. Sydney, thank you very much. Sydney says, thank you for what you do. Kai says, fighting the good fight. I appreciate you all. You want to support us at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, as we track towards 25K for the Do Something Tour. So I share that with you because this is part of what we discussed to start today. Brandolini's Law, right? It's a hell of a lot easier to just tell the lie and spread the misinformation than it is to refute it. So we were all under the impression, based on the podcast that he did with New York Pod Force One, whatever the fuck it is, that he separated all ties. So we're left to believe that, right? And then all of a sudden, the Jeffrey files get released. We see his name. We see pictures. We see email correspondence. So that requires people to look further into it. You get the idea. This administration is just built on a fucking bed of lies. Everything they do is meant to distract people from what's actually happening. You guys know that. I know that. We all know it. There are tens of millions of people in this country today that will just never believe it because they were told that it was a hoax. They were told that it was everybody but Trump. They were told it's a political witch hunt. They were told there's nothing to see here. And meanwhile, survivors will likely not see justice. And that's the worst part to me. These kind of scandals involving this level of depravity is not unique to the body politic, as we know. There is a story that just came out from Rhode Island. This reminds me of the entire, Spotlight, the story about Catholic priests in Boston. This is reported by Straight Arrow News. A massive decades-long controversy that has roiled Rhode Island's Catholic community was stirred anew this week with the release of a 282-page report detailing years of abuse by priests and cover-ups by church officials. The report, which follows more than a 5-year investigation by State Attorney General Peter Nerona, found that 75 Catholic clergy molested at least 315 victims since 1950. However, investigators believe the numbers of victims and offenders is actually significantly higher. Trigger warnings. My apologies. Still, according to NBC News, only 20 people named in the documents have faced criminal charges. Of those, just 14 were convicted. A dozen others were reportedly defrocked and dismissed from the church. Rhode Island is not only the smallest, but also the most heavily Catholic state in the country. Although similar scandals have occurred in Catholic dioceses across the nation, this one may have directly or indirectly affected a greater proportion of residents. Nerona's report emphasized how the years of abuse impacted victims. Quote, each survivor we spoke with recounted unthinkable trauma at the hands of trusted religious leaders. And yet what stood out most was their bravery, resiliency, and commitment to accountability. I also want to honor those who could not come forward, whether due to trauma or because they are no longer with us. We recognize and remember you as well. Most of the abuse occurred in the 1960s and 70s, according to the report. The most recent report of abuse occurred in 2011, when the principal of a Catholic school accused a deacon of pulling down the pants of several boys. The diocese would have you believe that this report is historical. That child sex abuse by clergy members is a thing of the past and not worth drudging up. To that, I say, the pain that survivors and their families suffer knows no statute of limitations, and history always has something to teach us. Investigators said clergy targeted children who were especially vulnerable to isolation and manipulation. Some victims included children from troubled homes, altar boys, and those attending Catholic schools. Most of the victims were boys between the ages of 11 and 14, the report said. They took an average of nearly 30 years before reporting their abuse. From 2020 to 22, during its investigation, the AG's office brought new indictments against 4 current and former priests for child SA. The report states that the diocese regularly protected priests accused of SA after transferring them to new congregations. Investigators found evidence that Catholic leadership destroyed confidential files after accused priests died. While the church got better at reporting abuse by 1990, authorities were usually kept in the dark before then. Of the 28 complaints the church received between 1950 and 1989, just 1 was referred to the police. Instead, the diocese kept the abuse secret. They hid and they obfuscated. And while this situation has improved in recent years, there remains work to be done. Nerona highlighted Rhode Island's lack of transparency as another reason the abuse continued for so long. The state forbids judicial officials from releasing grand jury reports, which could have warned the public of the widespread abuse far sooner. The law required Norona's office to sign an agreement with the diocese for its record, reported by CBS. Authorities had a difficult time speaking to victims since many of them came from devout Catholic families. Oftentimes, victims' parents were deeply involved in the church, with many even welcoming alleged abusers into their homes. The report is especially disturbing in Rhode Island, where 39% of the population identifies as Catholic. Norona is Catholic himself, but criticized the church for not doing enough. If you're not, quote, if you're the Diocese of Providence and you're listening, this is a scandal you need to own. You need to fix. We can't slow walk solutions, and we can't slow walk justice. Bishop Bruce Lewandowski apologized to the victims in a video. However, in a written statement, he said that much of the report's findings have already been uncovered, saying we already subject to civil and criminal litigations and well publicized in the media. So I grew up in the Catholic Church, right? And I've talked about this. And there was abuse at the time that I was attending that church. I was not an altar boy, but I used to participate in their basketball program and their after-school programs and things along those lines. This was an acknowledgement. My mother used to always tell me that every time we attended church, it was to benefit or to honor my grandmother. There were kids, boys, who were abused at that church at the same time that I was there. This was in Western Massachusetts. It's the same script. It's primarily white men with power, whether it be financial power, whether it be, positional power, or in this case, the power of the church. Small towns, vulnerable children, broken homes in many cases, and it was swept under the rug. If you've not read the story, or you can watch the movie Spotlight, but I would say read the story about how they just blew the cover off this in Boston, right? And it went so deep that they were able to identify this globally and how much of an absolute plague that it was. I share this because boys are victims of this abuse as well. I mean, I know you all know that. They were targeted. They were targeted because of where they came from and how vulnerable they were. And there were so many stories of families hearing rumors of this and still allowed their children to participate in these church programs. Three of the four clergymen that Norona's office charged are awaiting trial. The fourth died after a judge deemed him incompetent to stand trial in 2022. But Norona is looking for more proactive measures to make sure the abuse doesn't happen again. He's calling on the state's legislature to pass four major reforms. They include allowing grand jury reports to be made public, extending the state's civil statute of limitations to allow victims more time to file lawsuits, and increasing the criminal statute of limitations for second-degree SA. He's also asking lawmakers to clarify the state's mandatory reporting law to require reporting of known or suspected child abuse committed by the clergy or other religious leaders. Norona also has recommendations for the church. He has proposed that the diocese provide compensation to the victims, as other dioceses have done. Between 2004 and 2023, Catholic dioceses and related organizations have paid out more than $5 billion to settle lawsuits of clergy sex abuse. Norona has promised his reports will remain open, giving additional victims the opportunity to speak out. To this day, survivors of diocese clergy abuse continue to come forward, and they deserve justice. For survivors and for our future, I urge the diocese and the General Assembly to implement these and other proposals. This must never happen again. And yet it happens every day. Every day. Every single day. Largely perpetrated by white men. If it makes you uncomfortable, then that's probably a good thing. It should. And here we sit, right? Here we sit. We're going to send women and men to war to distract the eyes of the obvious, the biggest scandal in arguably, definitely domestic history, U.S. history. You could even say one of the biggest scandals in the world because of how deep it goes. But again, nothing to see here, right? Okay. Just want to make sure. There's new reporting by the Wall Street Journal. This was from last week, that there are an additional 47,635 Jeffrey files offline for review. Among the unreleased documents are a woman's unverified allegations against the president. The Justice Department has withheld thousands of documents from the Epstein files, including FBI documents that detail the woman's unverified allegations of SA against the president, according to a review by the Wall Street Journal. After a journal analysis identified more than 40,000 files that appeared to be missing from documents posted to the DOJ's website, a Justice Department spokesperson said that 47,635 files were offline for further review and should be ready for production by the end of the week. The withheld files included FBI notes documenting a series of interviews the woman gave to agents in 2019 in which she alleged SA misconduct by Trump and by Jeffrey when she was a minor in the 1980s, according to copies of the documents reviewed by the Journal. Trump has denied wrongdoing and said the Epstein files totally exonerated him. The woman who claimed that she was abused as a minor by Epstein was deemed ineligible for the Epstein Victims Compensation Program, which paid settlement to more than 130 Epstein victims. Her attorney at the Bloom firm declined to comment. The Justice Department included a summary of the woman's allegations within the Epstein files in January in so-called Form 302 from the woman's first interview, in which she alleged that Epstein abused her in South Carolina. It didn't release 3 other Form 302s, including the interview in which she discussed Trump. Now, why would that just conveniently disappear? And then we get people like Roger Sullenberger who uncovered it. We get the Form 302. We get the allegations made. And somehow or other, again, through the misinformation, disinformation, distraction superhighway, the president telling his base that he's been exonerated. So what is left? Those of us that are willing to talk about it, those of us that are willing to make sure that we're shining a light on this every fucking day, because it's day 81 of the federal government breaking the law to protect a series of predators, including the president, in my opinion. Right? So they can say that. He can say that he's been exonerated. And what do? We have to go through this exercise, and a lot of other journalists are doing the same thing, and I commend them for that. Here we sit. Well, he's not exonerated. It's not exonerated. He's certainly not exonerated, because you can't just be exonerated just by saying, hey, I'm exonerated. I stole the car. There's evidence there that would require an investigation, but I'm exonerated. So, yeah. Okay. Just makes me so fucking angry. It's just not going to change. It's never going to change unless we change it. Unless we are the ones that say, this is it. This is enough. And like I always listen, I am a glass half full kind of guy, right? I'm always gonna be that way, and maybe it's good or bad, whatever. Sassy men and baby mamas hate Trump. Prove you wrong. Okay, whatever. The desire to hold powerful men accountable is something that we should all share. We should all keep that. I'd like to think we can all focus on that, right? Cool. See, this is what we have. We've got people like this who just feel like they can just make comments like this. Kind of nice, right? It's cool. Nice, right? Nice. You think it's a flex, sir? Ma'am, I don't want to misgender you. My apologies. Okay. We're up here talking about crimes against kids. We're up here talking about a global conspiracy that involves everybody from all walks of life. That the President of the United States' name is all over it. Right? And that's all you can do? Is to share that kind of bullshit? Tracks, though. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm okay. I had a rough weekend at my job. Speaking of, holding men accountable, we had a situation at work, and he's not going to be held accountable. So, there's that. It's time for me to get a new job. But as somebody who works in mental health, that SSRI comment made me come up because it's like, I'm pretty sure it's like the majority of Americans that take some sort of antidepressant, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Mental health is super duper important. And if you feel like there's a problem with that, sir, maybe you should go to the doctor because maybe you need an SSRI. Just saying. Mental health is so important. I mean, I'm a mental health nurse. This is what I do. Why would we ever shame somebody for getting help? That makes zero sense. And Cassidy said, me and Lexapro, me and Effexor, girl. Like, I take my meds, take them. You should take your meds. If they're prescribed to you, that is what your doctor did it for a reason. You should take your meds. There's nothing wrong with it. But I work with the abuse of children. This is what I do. I work in a mental health hospital, and the amount of kids that we get, both girls and boys, that have been either SMEX trafficked or abused by a family member or something like that, I would say I take care of usually 20 girls at night. I would say 18 out of 20 of them, and I take care of 12 boys, and I would say 6 out of 12 is usually the amount of abuse that these children are seeing. And we're surprised that our government is protecting them and covering it up, because I know I'm not, because I see it every single time I go into work. Every single time. And then the sad part is sometimes we get cases where it's an adolescent boy who has gone to DH for, abuse of another child, but then they go to DH and then they're abused, and then the cycle just continues. And the cycle just repeats itself. And I just don't understand, at some point, you guys, the cycle needs to stop. The cycle of, detention, DH, detention hall for minors. That's what DH is. Somebody was asking in the comments. But the cycle of abuse just continues. And I see this every day in the comments, and I see it every day at my job. And I just don't know how to fix it. How do we fix the end of abuse?
That's the question, right?
That's
the question. I think it's getting men out of power. I think that would be a great place to start, quite frankly.
I definitely agree. And I think people need to have, I think it's the empathy. I think we have to have empathy, especially with these adolescent boys right now. And don't get me wrong, I am not excusing men and their bad behavior. Don't get me wrong. But the manosphere that these young boys are growing up into, to believe that women are not the same of them, we have to have some empathy for them and some grace for them, because the cycle of abuse has to end, and it's not going to end unless we can provide empathy for people in all situations. And if they're taking responsibility and they're trying to do better, then that's what we got to help them, I mean, your brain's not even fully developed until you're 25 years old. So if you're I'm trying not to give too much information, but if I had completely hypothetically, if I have a 12-year-old that comes in that has hurt his 8-year-old sister, and then he went to DH for it, then chances are he's been then abused again, and we have to provide trauma-informed care better. I don't know, Steve. I'm just kind of rambling at this point.
No, I got you. I appreciate your perspective, and I think the reminder that mental health is healthcare. I'm a massive advocate for men's mental health, for mental health in general, but in particular men's mental health. So please, if you have insurance, and even if you don't, there are resources. It's so incredibly important, and I would encourage everyone, to, especially again, fellas, let's get rid of the societal stigma that says you can't seek help when you need it. So please do it. Thank you for your work.
Please do it.
I appreciate you.
And whether you're an adult or a child, if you need mental health care, please reach out. There are sources, there are ways to help. You know, there is 988, which you can definitely call. RAIN.org also has a lot of mental health resources. And then, you know, just reach out to your family, check in on your loved ones. You know, this is hard for all, we're all going through it when it comes to what's happening in our society. And right now, we just need to support each other as best we can.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate you.
Thank you,
Be safe
Steve.
out there, okay? You got it. Talk to you soon.
Okay,
All right, bye. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good segue. Going to likely be doing, we talked about this briefly yesterday, and let me be careful how I say this. It's all men until it's no men. There's no doubt about it. But as a father of boys, I am concerned. We went through a story yesterday that the majority of a large percentage of Gen Z men believe that their partner should be subservient, right? And we have to make sure that we're getting out ahead of this. We may be a little bit too late for the Gen Z because of the red pilling effect, but I want to do a live on how I'm going to be very careful how I say this. It is not my expectation, nor should it be. It's not women's responsibility to fix men. It's not intention at all. It's conversation so that men can hear that there is an opportunity to grow and change. I've discussed this many, many times, right? That society tells men the only emotions you can show are anger and lust publicly. We need to change that script. And this is not political, because there are bad behaving men everywhere. That's the fucking point, right? I don't expect women to trust men. You shouldn't. And I want to help men see that. I want to help men see the fact when women say, I would choose the bear. Why? Why would women say that? Why do we say it's all men until it's no men? Why does that happen? Why are women checking out on relationships? All these kinds of things. There's a reason. What men want to do is blame women for this shit because it's just easy. Because it's always been the script. That's the patriarchy. So on Monday, we're going to do a live on this particular topic. And I hope people will join us. I want to hear a variety of voices. It's not my expectation that women are here to fix men. All y'all are like, fuck this shit. I'm fucking done. I don't blame you. I'm surprised it didn't come out sooner, quite frankly. In many cases it did. This will be a conversation that we're driving to try to help men understand it. Because we have accomplices. But I'm not going to say allies, because some of you, us, fellas, are still doing the same thing. You're not speaking up. When you see something, you're not saying something, or you're falling into the patriarchy traps. So it's going to be interesting. That'll be Monday. But thank you for that. Okay, let me just check in over here real quick. Okay. Got it. All right, a little reporting on democracy. So the Democracy Docket is Mark Elias's organization. Mark Elias is one of those people. He's a lawyer. He's one of those people that will probably not be remembered in history as much as he should. Right? He has been his law firm and his agency. He's been out there fighting against election denials, election deniers, and voting for voting rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, he's on the radar again because there's a new GOP anti-voting bill that may be the most dangerous attack on voting rights ever. Every time I share these stories, I want to remind you of why we talk about it, because today's modern day Republican Party cannot win elections on policy because they have none. They're going to lie to you about election integrity. No. At the end of the day, since we were just talking about this briefly, today's GOP are afraid of women. Plain and simple. Because if you look at the Save America Act and you look at other policies, who does it primarily target? It primarily targets women. Black women in particular, women in general. They are afraid of you. So like you say before, give them a reason to be. Give them a reason to be afraid by turning out for massive amounts of voting. Today in Georgia, Illinois, wherever it might be, just show up like you've never shown up before. This goes back to my hope and my wish following the Texas primary with James Tallarico becoming the nominee. I hope that these kinds of assaults on democracy remind women, especially those that supported Jasmine, that I'm asking you to please take her advice and her guidance when she said, listen, please, please, please support James Tallarico, because this is the kind of shit that's at stake. Anyway, Republicans in Congress have unveiled a new bill that would impose the most extreme voting restrictions ever proposed at the federal level. The new bill goes far beyond even the SAVE Act, which the House passed last year and with one historian called the most extraordinary attack on voting rights in American history. It's being unveiled at a time when GOP anti-voting legislation has been steadily gaining support in the Senate after a push by the president and anti-voting groups. Introduced by Brian Stell, Republican from Wisconsin, the chair of the House Administration Committee, the proposal is called Make Elections Great Again, or MEGA, a name deliberately echoing President Trump's campaign slogan. While the SAVE Act focuses almost exclusively on requiring voters to produce documented proof of citizenship when registering, the MEGA Act is far more sweeping. It would impose a strict photo ID requirement to vote, create a centralized voter surveillance system in every state, mandate constant voter roll purges, gutting the motor voter law that expanded across to a voter registration, bar states from counting ballots that arrive after Election Day, ban universal mail voting, in which states mail a ballot to all registered voters, bar the federal funding for voter registrations by outside groups, and unleash lawsuits against election officials all at once. The provision requiring photo ID states that election officials, quote, may not provide a ballot for an election for federal office to an individual who desires to vote in person unless the individual presents to the official a valid physical photo identification. That comes from the bill's text. The bill also aggressively targets voter registration itself. It requires states to demand documentary proof of U.S. citizenship before registering anyone to vote in federal elections, and to repeatedly recheck the eligibility of people who are already registered. States would be ordered to take the affirmative steps as are necessary on an ongoing basis, but in no case less frequently than once every 30 days to verify the eligibility of registrants. Those checks would rely heavily on government databases that are known to contain errors, including records related to felony convictions, deaths, address changes, and immigration status. If a voter is flagged, the consequences could be immediate and public. The bill requires states to place people deemed ineligible on a publicly available list while they attempt to prove they should not be removed. So, taking your rights away, and then it's on you to prove it. Okay. But perhaps the most far-reaching provision of the MEGA Act is its mandate that every state create a centralized voter database that would control federal elections. The bill requires, quote, a single, uniform, official, centralized, interactive, computerized, statewide voter registration list that would serve as a official voter registration list for the conduct of all elections for federal office in the state. In our Constitution, states run their own elections. So this is, again, another attempt to federalize. Right? I can't imagine. Mark. Come on up for a second, Mark. I just have a question for you. I know you're in the chat, so I know you're here. So can you come up for a second? Because I just have a question for you. It's really simple. I don't bite. I just nibble. It's just a real question. It's an honest conversation. My fear is that you have been propagandized because your comment is, I can't imagine anybody thinking it's okay for a non-citizen to vote. And I want to ask you where you get your information from. And then I'd like to provide you some information. Now, I know that you won't believe it to be true because that would be an example of you being propagandized. Because you've been told it's an epidemic of non-citizens voting. I will remind you that the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation have been researching this for decades. 2 billion votes cast over like a 20-year period, and there were 10 examples of non-citizens voting. Not 1 million, not 100,000, not 10,000, not even 100, but 10. So Mark, once again, would you rather have the truth, or would you rather just continue to live in your bubble of misinformation and disinformation? It's weird, right? It's not that difficult. If you want to know the truth and you want to understand why I get up here every single day and try to push back on this bullshit, is because of claims like that. So I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. You're going to probably cite some anecdotal experience, or you know a guy, or you know a guy, or you know a guy, right? Why don't you try to come up and learn the truth, Mark? There's a spot. Got a blanket for you. I'll light a candle. We can have some nuts, maybe some olives, and we can talk. Because that's the goal here. Why continue to live in a bubble where you have information available to you, the same information that I have available to you, to me, right? Same information. How come it is that I have the data that supports the fact that this is a non-issue, and yet you think non-citizens are running rampant? Okay, I didn't think you'd come up, but I thought I'd try. All right, I want to talk now a little bit about a couple other things. First of all, Tom Tillis. You know, I don't agree with Tom's policies, but he's on the way out and he's going to burn fucking shit down. He's talking about Stephen Miller. He is not a fan of Stephen Miller at all. Here's Tom Tillis.
Gives me pause that you had people like Stephen Miller calling the shots that actually I believe that maybe Kristi Noem acted on. It was Stephen Miller that was talking about a terrorist brandishing a gun. It was Stephen Miller who said it was the position of the United States that we should go after Greenland. It's Stephen Miller that's been repeatedly responsible for embarrassments for the President of the United States by acting too quickly, speaking first and thinking later. I think if Mark Wayne... I don't think Mark Wayne goes to the podium and repeats something that Stephen Miller says. I think Stephen Miller's demonstrated he too is out of his depth, and I think Mark Wayne will learn from that.
Do you think Stephen Miller should go?
Oh, of course I do. I think Stephen Miller is one of the. Not only does Stephen really want to just paint a picture, he's not worried about substance, he's more worried about form. But I also think that he has an outsized influence over the operations of the cabinet. And I believe we've got qualified cabinet members there that sometimes are doing less than what they want to because of his direction and his outsized influence.
Who's qualified in the cabinet there, Tom? Rubio is probably the most qualified of all of them. Guy was a senator. He's a smart guy. He's probably the most qualified of all of them. But who else?
Big problem in this administration. He has been from the beginning.
So, yeah, he's not a fan of Stephen Miller. None of us are. Tom Tillis, obviously, it's fair to criticize. He's retiring, right? He can say these things now. Doesn't have to worry about his position. Okay. Sheldon Whitehouse is angry at Pam Bondi. As we discussed before, Howard Nutlick is coming in to testify in front of the House, as is Pam Bondi. She's got a lot of questions she's going to have to answer. So here is Sheldon Whitehouse on whether or not Pam Bondi perjured herself.
No evidence in the Epstein files that Donald Trump has committed a crime simply is not true.
Not only is there a quite real chance at this point that the Attorney General
perjured herself and knew better, but this could go quite far through the rest of the MAGA Department of Justice. This individual, who allegedly was assaulted by Donald Trump as a young teenager, was interviewed over and over again. So you don't do that with a crank witness with something that has no merit to it from the very get-go.
Correct.
So every part of this looks like it is a lead and looks like it is evidence against Donald Trump, and that makes the Attorney General's statement false.
So she perjured herself, right? You know, don't forget, Michael Cohen perjured himself in front of Congress, got referred to the DOJ, they indicted him, charged him, sent him to fucking jail. So she perjured herself. There's no doubt about it. She did. She perjured herself. She said there's nothing worthy of an investigation here. And that's kind of exactly what we're talking about. Where are the indictments? Where are the charges against these people? This is what we talk about. And we should probably do this conversation at some point, but evidence is just that. It's evidence. I'm going to give you an example because there's a case out of, let me see if I can find it here. Where is it? I'll give you an example. This is from New York City. Alexander brothers found guilty on all charges in sex trafficking trial. Jurors in New York have found the Alexander brothers guilty on all counts in their federal trial on sex trafficking charges. The verdict Monday capped 4 weeks of testimony from women who accused the three wealthy brothers, Tal, 39, and 38-year-old twins, Orrin and Alan, of sexually assaulting them. The brothers were accused of teaming up to drug and rape dozens of women and girls over more than a decade, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Andrew Jones referenced the distressing accounts of 11 victims during the trial. That's evidence. Their statements and their testimony was evidence. That's what they came to court with. Their stories, their testimony, their statements. That's evidence. Evidence used to convict, presented in court. Jury ruled against them and sent them, or going to be sending them to jail. Allegations, witness testimony. You present your case and you let the jury decide. So for anybody who's still supporting the president and others by saying these are just allegations, those allegations are evidence. That's how it fucking works. Evidence can also be used to clear you of charges. We asked this question a million fucking times. What would you fucking need? A camera in the fucking room? You wouldn't believe that either. The verdict on Monday capped 4 weeks of testimony. The brothers faced 10 counts, including conspiracy to commit sex trafficking and multiple charges of trafficking by force, fraud, or by coercion. They had pled not guilty to the charges which were brought against them in waves following their arrest in December of 2024 in Miami, where they lived. The trial took place in New York, one of several locations where victims said that they were assaulted. Prior to the arrests, Orrin and Tal Alexander were known for their luxury real estate business, which earned them the nickname the A-Team. As they brokered high-end properties in New York, Miami, and LA, Allen graduated from law school and went on to hold an executive position at their family's private security firm. Orrin Alexander shook his head softly as the forewoman read out the guilty verdict. Ty Alexander is also put his head down. Their parents were present and faced downward in court, while at one point a family friend rubbed their mother's back. Sentencing has been scheduled for August the 6th. Prosecutors said during the trial, three brothers used their money, their power, and status. Sound familiar? Money, power, status? To lure and then take advantage of the women they assaulted, including, they alleged, 2 teenage girls. An indictment accused them of drugging victims and sexually abusing them once they were incapacitated, in some cases taking video or photos. The brothers' defense lawyers argued that the encounters were consensual and that their sometimes obnoxious or inappropriate banter doesn't constitute a crime. In a statement on the brothers' convictions, U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton said the crimes highlighted in the trial are all too prevalent in our society and all too often go unreported and unpunished. Jay Clayton, U.S. attorney under the Trump administration, is part of the investigation into the Jeffrey files. Funny that he can make that fucking statement. He said that sex crimes highlighted in the trial, quote, are all too prevalent in our society and all too often go unreported and unpunished. You think? The truth is, sex trafficking and other federal sex offenses are present in many walks of life, and we have not done enough to root it out. No fucking shit! Are you fucking kidding me? Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo spoke outside the courthouse following the verdict, saying, quote, it was not the verdict we were looking for, but we're going to keep fighting. The AP said, quote, we believe in our client's innocence and we're not going to stop fighting until we prevail, and we believe that we will one day prevail. Today was not the outcome we were looking for, obviously, but our resolve is unshaken. The AP reported that Agnifilo said the defendants were disappointed with the verdict and that he believed that there were many appeals issues that will be raised in the future. Jay Clayton, a U.S. attorney under the Trump administration who was part of the SDNY's investigation into crimes committed by Jeffrey and Ghislaine, he's seen the fucking goods. And that pathetic fuck says this: sex crimes highlighted in this trial, quote, are all too prevalent in our society and all too often go unreported and unpunished. The truth is, trafficking and other federal sex offenses are present in many walks of life, and we have not done enough to root it out. You fucking think so? Really? You want to tell that to survivors? You want to tell that to women who've been abused, who don't report because nobody believes them? You want to tell them what the fuck? What's the percentage? How incredibly small the percentage of those that are convicted? Witness statements, witness testimony, allegations made. That's evidence. Evidence used to convict these fucking monsters. How is it any different than anything that we see in the Jeffrey files? The Trump files, excuse me. It's no different. Allegations, witness testimonies, statements. But apparently, he's been exonerated. Okay. Just want to make sure I understand that. Just want to make sure I get it. Just want to make sure that we're very, very clear that evidence, allegations, witness testimony presented in court, jury decides those people who did this are guilty. But everybody else connected to the Jeffrey files, allegations, witness testimony, statements, they're all innocent. All right. Just want to make sure I understand that properly. These fuckers are going to get away with shit. Like they always do. A little bit more from Sheldon Whitehouse, because he's been doing the work. He's been really, really big on corporate finance laws and try to change the law. And in particular, this relates to this topic because people with unchecked power, capital, corruption, they influence all these people. They're all being protected. The amount of money that funnels into politics right now, a lot of the same people who are connected to these crimes are funding other politicians. So here he's talking about trying to get rid of Citizens United.
In January of 2010, the United States Supreme Court, or at least Republican appointees to the United States Supreme Court, made one of the court's worst decisions in its long history, and that was to allow unlimited special interest money into our politics and even allow it in anonymously. That decision, Citizens United, kicked off an era of corruption unlike any we had seen in many, many decades. Now we're filing my Disclose Act in Washington to end the dark money. Very simply, would require anybody making more than $10,000 in contributions to a race to identify who they really are. Not a shell corporation, not a 501c4, not a phony front group, who the donor really is. Voters deserve no less, and our democracy deserves a cleanup as well.
How can anybody disagree with that? Right? I mean, I always look for things that maybe we can find some bipartisan support on. Republicans have the majority. If they cared about money in politics, they would be the ones standing in front with their hands up. But no, can't do that. Got to allow dark money to continue to funnel elections because we can't win without it. That's what they're telling you. Okay. All right. I meant to cover this story earlier. Andy Ogles, who is Republican rep from Tennessee, is a vile, disgusting human being. I meant to connect this story to what I was sharing with you earlier about how about this push for end of days and how the evangelical movement is now behind or in support of the justification of the war with Iran because it's helping push towards rapture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Andy Ogles posted on social media. This is a story. This came out on yesterday. He posted on social media. Okay, there's a restriction. Tap like crazy, guys. Andy Ogles posted on social media, quote, "Muslims don't belong in American society." After the FBI announced its investigation into a New York protest incident as ISIS-inspired terrorism, later Ogles doubled down in his comments, writing, quote, "All of them immigrants, none of them belong here." Ogles also suggested that the U.S. Department of Justice deport New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, a naturalized citizen. Republican leadership had not publicly responded to the comments. Ogles, who has previously advocated for restricting immigration from Muslim-majority countries, faces a primary challenger in this year's election. However, he has Donald Trump's endorsement and is considering a Senate run if Marsha Blackburn's seat becomes available. Ogles isn't the only Republican openly using anti-Muslim language. In February, Rep. Randy Fine from Florida said that if he had to choose between dogs and Muslim people, the decision, quote, "is not a difficult one." Many Democratic leaders called for Fine's resignation as a result. Nice. Nice. So nice. That's your party, friends. You care about that shit? Probably not. Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Hi, I'm right. I was just read on my friend's post. She runs, for lack of better words, like a type of orphanage. It's like a day group for kids in India and Calcutta for street kids that don't have homes and have been exposed to unimaginable stories. And she provides them with education and food and stuff like that during the day. And they can no longer receive cooking gas, and the restaurants in India can no longer receive cooking gas. And so because of what's going on, in the Middle East. And so now she is faced with a major problem. Like, she goes out into the villages that, other people can't reach to provide these resources for people. And now they can no longer provide food because they have no way to cook it for these, innocent children over there. So it's, while we're not directly feeling the effects right now, it's just, to hear it from somebody, that I know well, and I know the work she does is so amazing that she can't provide for these kids that she cares so much about is just awful, and it's affecting them right now.
We just don't have our priorities in order, do we, Natalie?
No, not at all.
No, we don't. No,
not at
we
all.
Don't.
Nobody deserves this.
I agree. I want to personally thank you for your amazing support for the show. You're here every day and you contribute. So I just wanted you to hear that from me specifically. So thank you for what you do to support us. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yep. Just wanted to bring light to some of the different ways people are being affected that we might not hear about. So
I appreciate you. Have a good day. Be safe out there.
Yep. You too. All right. Bye.
Yeah, it's these the societal cracks have always been there and how people fall through. And now you've got elected officials. A gentleman by the name of Andy Ogles wants to be a United States senator. and he thinks that Muslim Americans should just not be here. Yeah, that's fine. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see. That's totally fine, though. Good day, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. The reason I contacted Sam last night. I don't know if you got the message or not.
I did. I'm glad you're here.
Well, the reason this is out of my character. I normally don't do this. I am in need of a new wheelchair. My insurance will cover it, but my copay is $2,500. So if there's anybody willing to contribute, that kind of thing, my bio, my pay apps are in my bio. If you need more information regarding what I need for it, I will give you the receipts so you know what I'm looking for, and that's what the money is for. I just need to come up with the money first for the copay before I can get a new wheelchair. And so this is so embarrassing for me.
We got you, bro. We got you.
So, if you can help me out with that, that'd be great.
Let me ask our community while I have you here. I know that there's organizations, somebody mentioned the Lions Club, and I was just thinking about the Lions Club as well. Is there anybody here who has any kind of connections that can help our friend Ryan? Because this dude is a freaking amazing kid. I love you, my brother. I called you kid because I feel paternal at the moment. You represent your community. Thank you, Sanjay Raiders. You represent your community. You are courageous. You turn your camera on. You host platforms. And as we've spoken before, we've done some things to help your various causes in the past. If there's anybody who has, there you go. Look at that handsome devil. If there's anybody here who knows or has connections that might be able to help Ryan get himself a wheelchair, could you please reach out either to me or to him directly? That would be amazing. What state do you live in, sir?
I live in Florida.
He lives in Florida.
Yep.
So if anybody's down there, if anybody knows, we've also got our friend the Proletariat who does a lot of work to help people in your position. We will do our absolute best, as you know, right? Yes.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So I'll put that plea up there, and we'll continue to ask if there's ways that we can, if there's ways we can figure this out. American Legion Halls or Lions Club. I mean, there's a lot of these fraternal organizations do a lot of work that's unpublicized. This is now my mission, so we got you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I will, once I get the paperwork rolling, I'll be posting all the paperwork through my insurance and what my responsibility to it, so you guys know what I'm doing with the money for.
You don't have to explain that to us, Fred. You don't need to explain that to us. We got you.
I'm all about transparency.
I know. I understand that. I appreciate that. But you have our trust. You don't have to worry about that. We'll do what we can for you. So the call has been the call has been made to our community. We now know that you live in Florida. We now that you know you need a wheelchair. That's something new. We know that you've got some insurance to cover it, but there's a big nut. So we're going to find an organization or many causes. You're not a veteran, are you?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay. The question was just asked. So we got it. It's our mission. Okay. Leave a lot of this heavy lifting to us. You focus on being the amazing human that you are. Okay. Okay.
I'm very grateful.
I know.
Thank you.
I know. It's all good, man. It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you.
It's what we do here. It's what we do here, brother. You know that. I've already seen a whole bunch of people that are this is gonna be their day, right? So we're gonna figure this out.
Okay.
All right.
I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
I know you do. Message me when we're done so I can get some more details, okay?
Okay, I would definitely do that. You want to do on Discord?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll do that.
I love you, brother. Chin up.
I love you too, man. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, friends. We have a mission. We have a do something moment here, right? We have an opportunity to make someone's life better. Who, if that person was in a position to help others, he would be the first one in fucking line. We don't ask a lot of our community. We just lean in when the time comes. So we've got an opportunity to help someone directly. Jen's already on it, already doing it. This is what I'm talking about. These are these moments when we see how crappy shit is, and we see how horrible things are, and we see how discouraged we all feel. Those are real feelings. And then you meet somebody like Ryan, and then who would never ask for help. Like most of us, right? We don't want to do that. Mods, can you pin Ryan's, Ryan, say hi, just if you could real quick in the chat, friend, and then we'll just pin your name. We'll pin it, and then we'll provide some more resources. This is what we do. There you go. Mr. Wheels, 76. Okay, friends? The die's been cast. All right. Actually, I think I might want to stop, because that's a great spot to end right there. I am angry, but I am inspired by people like Ryan, because it just reminds me of what it is that we're fighting for. It just reminds me of who and how and what we want our society to do. We want people who can recognize that we're human beings, and we just want people's lives to be better. And there are ways that we can do it, right? He does go live pretty regularly these days, and we're gonna help him. We're gonna help him. We'll figure this out. He'll communicate with me. I'll get some more details. So we will be redirecting some of our mental resources towards helping him solve this problem. And we're gonna end there today. Just want to end a little bit early. So let's do something. I want to thank you guys. We'll be back here tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Sorry to end early today, but I always like to end on something positive. And as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing more positive than trying to help out our fellow humans. And he's a good one. So thank you guys for being here. I don't know if there's anybody who's live today at the moment. I'll be checking, make sure that the live stays. And I did get a restriction, and I don't want to lose this live too in case we lose both. Then we're out of luck for a couple days. But I'm not sure who's live. Doesn't matter. Find a great creator that you trust, that you like, that you love, and support them. Support independent journalists. Just as a reminder, friends, I want to make sure that Danny, cool, Danny's live. Want to make sure that you're always focused on doing something, right? There's always something that we can do. And I want to remind folks that it doesn't matter how big or how small, if you are in any position to help, no matter what it is, volunteering in your community, helping someone like Ryan who you don't know get access to a wheelchair, all these kinds of things. This is the shit that we need to do. This is why we're fighting. This is why we're going on the road. This is why we have this community, because there's more people that are out there that want to help others than there are that want to inflict harm on people. So I'm going to believe that. I'm going to stick to that. It keeps me going. I love you all. We'll see you.